Hey there, welcome to my channel. This is Aderemi and this is Programming with Remy. I welcome you to my third video on HTML basics. So we have been able to examine HTML introduction. We have looked at HTML architecture, and today we are going to be looking at HTML text. And for HTML text, we are going to be examining headings, paragraphs, and text formatting, and these are content that are familiar, that you are all to be familiar with your Word documents. So today we're going to be looking at headings. So let's start from the first slide now. All right, so I have this screenshot here, and this screenshot here, it's a screenshot of a particular web page that I created, and it's showing a particular heading, another heading here, and a paragraph here. So this is an example, this is an illustration of an heading 1 tag, which the first content here is a main heading, and the second content here is the sub heading. So headings here said heading has 6 levels of heading. So in HTML we have 6 levels of heading, and as you all know, heading, they define the structure and also the hierarchy of web page contents. And so if you have, for example, you are creating a blog page, you have to have heading of the contents, the excerpt of the content. So heading plays a major role in web content. So if I go to my next slide now, so in my next slide now, I have a snippet of an HTML code of the different levels of headings and the results of the levels. And if you read the content I placed, they said heading 1 is used for the main headings, while heading 2 is used for the sub heading. So if there are further section under sub heading, then heading 3 element is used. So headings are in levels in HTML, and they are used, they have specific functions which they use, and your browser by default displays headings large and bold. So that's the normal way it displays heading in HTML, and the lower the level of an heading, the greater its importance. Now if you observed in my snippet here, the first heading, this is level 1 heading, you will observe that it has the high, it has the more, is more bolder than the rest of the levels, right? And this refers to as the main heading, and this is level 2, refers to as the sub heading, and we have other levels. So as the lower the heading level, the greater is important. So this is one of those important things. So what I want to do now is that I want you to pause this video, and I want you to try to input all these snippets of code into your Visual Studio Code and observe the results in your web browser. So we going to pause this video now and try to do that now. All right, okay, so if you have been able to do that, that's good of you. All right, so now let's look at the importance of headings. So we say headings are valuable for highlighting important topics and structure of a web page. Also, when it comes to search engine optimization, Google crawling system, to be able to optimize your website, it utilizes headings of web content for indexing. Hence developers should use them wisely. So for example, if you observe a search for a company and online, or a search for a business, and you observe the business is top in Google search, that's because it is well optimized. So heading plays an important role. So I said here that headings should be used for text highlighting or defining structure of a web page, not to bold or make text bigger. And I have a hint. I said each time you place a heading tag on a web page, the web browser built in a style sheet automatically creating some empty space in between. So that means that whenever I put an heading is a structural markup. In a sense, if you remember the last class we did, we said headings, paragraphs, they are structural markups, in the sense that they take a whole width of the block of your web page. So, and it creates a space in between, a space above and a space below other content in the web page. As we go further, you will observe when we go to the practical example and we use some headings, you will observe how it will be displayed in your browser. And if you follow through with the example, you will observe that there is a space in between the first level heading and the second level heading. That's very good. All right, so let's go to the next slide now. So we're also going to be examining paragraph now, and from the last class also we look at the P character that it stands for paragraph. And to create a paragraph, the text is placed between the opening P tag and the closing P tag, and the P stands for the character. So by default, each paragraph is displayed in a new line and a space in between the paragraph and subsequent paragraph, because paragraphs, they are also referred to as structural markup that define the structure of your web page. Now if you see the snippet of a code that I screenshot here, you will observe that I have two paragraphs. The first paragraph here, which have an opening tag and the closing tag, and I have another paragraph here which has the opening tag and the closing tag. Now if you observe that each of the paragraphs have a definite space in between those paragraphs and subsequent paragraph. So that's one of the most important things you should note when you write paragraph. And what paragraph does is that paragraph also help you to space your content and helps the reader to understand what you are trying to pass across to them. So that's very important in noting paragraphs. All right, so let's go to text formatting. As text formatting implied, you should be familiar with Word documents, either you want to bold, italics. So we have different formatted text formatting techniques and tools. So the same applies for HTML. So we can draw attention of users to your web page by different formatting text that you use. So as I said that formatted text can draw attention to specific parts of the web page and emphasize important information such as adjusting text, include fonts and color. So we have different tags that I use to define this different formatting text. So we have different tags that we're going to look at in the next slide. So we have bold tags to make your content bold, to make your content pre-formatted text, strong, emphasis, quotations, abbreviations, citations and definitions. So let's go to the first one. We're going to just do a quick view of them, and I want to, as you're viewing them, I want to pause this video and practice them and observe how it will display in your browser. All right, so the first one we're going to look at the bold and italics. And for the bold, to make a content bold, use this particular B, which stands for bold. This character stands for bold, and the character in between the opening bold tag and the closing bold tag will appear as bold. And I said this is used majorly to draw the audience attention, for example, a keyword in a paragraph. So if you observe the snippet of code that I draw here, we have a paragraph, right? We have an opening paragraph and we have a closing paragraph here, and they said this is how we make the word appear bold. Now observe that this also, when we look at in the last class, we said we have nesting elements. So this is an example of a nested elements, right? So, and we observe that the bold is placed in between the opening B and the closing B, and that was why you see that it's bold here. So that's another example where we have another paragraph here. This is also bold. So that's for bold. So also we have for italics. Now characters in between italics will appear in italics. This is usually majorly to draw audience attention to keywords, technical terms, definitions, stress, notes. So those are important places where italics are used. So we can see the example that I have here. I have another paragraph here, and I have a I tag used to reference italics, and you can observe that the result shows the italics. So what I want to do is that I want to use your code editor and try this out and see the result in your browser. Alright, so let me go to the next slide now. So also have superscript and subscript. Now superscript is represented with this particular term sup. So, and this is an element used to contain characters that should be superscripts, such as suffix of date. So, or maybe you have an equation, or you want to reference a particular date. So, and you see that it also have an opening tag and a closing tag. So you can see that we have the opening tag here and the closing tag here, and you see the result here that the th is now subscript. So, and we also see another example of EMT. So I want to pause this video so and to try this out also. Alright, so we also have the subscript here now, which is element is used to contain character that should be subscripts, such as footnotes or chemical compound. So we have an example here, the amount of CO2. Now no CO2, you can see the results here because I've used the subscript tag here. So it also have an opening tag and a closing tag. Or let me go to another example. Also, one of the most important things that you must note in HTML is that we have what we call white spacing. Now web authors must realize that there's a bit of, when you writing in your code and your HTML code, you observe that HTML, there's space between the line and for example this example that I have here now. But see, in HTML, when the browser comes across two or more space next to each other, it only displays one space. Similarly, if it come across a line break, it treats that as a single space too. So for example, look at this other example that I have here. I have a paragraph here and it said the lion, and you observe that I have more than a space here, and the cats are from the same family. But if you observe the results from my browser here, I have just a single space here, even though I applied a more than one space here in my in your code. So I wanted to try this out also. But what we can do if you want to add more than a single space is to add this particular symbol here now, and if I add this particular symbol here, it will retain this particular space here. So I want to try this out also. So you can see that I have the lion and I have this symbol here, and the space is available here. So that's an example of. So also we have line breaks and horizontal row. So the symbol for line break is here, or use this particular BR, which stands for line break, and this particular line break does not have an opening tag, or we don't reference as a pair of tags because we reference them as empty tag or self-closing tag. So, and you said I have an example here. Said the heads is big enough to contain everyone. I see that I use the break tag to break this content into the next line of code, right? And also to break everyone into the next line of code. Also we have the so also we have the horizontal rule, and the snippet, or we can say the shorthand for the horizontal rule is HR tag, and it is also an empty tag or a self-closing tag. And what this does is that it creates a break in between themes, sections, change of topic in a book. So we have different places that you can use an horizontal line. So if you observe the example I have here, you observe that it's in between this first paragraph and this second paragraph, and you observe that I have HR here. So, and that's why I have the horizontal line, and horizontal line is also a block level element because you observe that it is fill the whole block. I can't add any other item or any other content to this horizontal line here now. So that's an example of line breaks and horizontal rows. All right, so let's go to the next slide. So also we have strongs and emphasis. So the strong tag is the same as the word strong. So the use of strong elements indicates that its content has strong significance. By default, the browser will show the content of a strong element in bold. So now if you observe, now I have this paragraph, and in between this paragraph I have a strong tag which is referencing this particular content, beware. So it, and if you observe, the result here is has highlighted this content and made it bold. Now I have another paragraph here, and you observe that it highlight this particular contents and make it bold. Now one thing you must observe is that the strong is different from the bold tag. Now the bold element is just used for viewers to observe an emphasis, but when you use the strong tag, it is majorly to show a strong significance or importance, either in a phrase, a word, or in a content in particular. Also, we have the EM tag, which is referred to as the emphasis tag, and this element indicates emphasis that subtly changes the meaning of a sentence. So if you observe, I have I used two paragraphs there, and the first one I put the EM between Jane, and observe that the result is that the EM shows this Jane as italics, right? And then I have another paragraph here which I put the EM opening tag and closing tag between think, and you observe that it's italics this now. So but the EM is not italics, so you must observe that and not use one for the other. So alright, so let's go to another formatting text also. So we have quotations, and we have two type of quotations. We have the block quotes and the quotes. Now the block quotes tag is the same word as block quotes. The block quotes are used for longer quotes that takes the entire paragraph. So you observe that I have the block quotes here, and it's also a block line element. You observe I have the block quotes, I have the opening block quote, and I have the closing block quotes, and in between I have a paragraph, and this is the paragraph, and they have the content. And you observe that this style, it formats this paragraph in a specific way to show me this is a block quote, right? And also I have the other quote here, which is represented with a Q, and this Q element is used for shorter quotes that sit within a paragraph. Browsers are supposed to put quotes around the Q element. Now the Q element can be referenced as an inline element. Now if you observe the example of the snippet of code I have here, I have the paragraph here, and in between the paragraph I have the quotes. Some people talk to animals, blah 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 blah, and you observe that the browser automatically puts a colon for the quote tag where it's referenced. So that's the example of quotations. Alright, so let's go to another formatting text. We also have abbreviations and acronyms, and abbreviations have the represented by the tag ABABR, and the ABABR represents an abbreviation or acronym. Optionally, with its expansion, the title attribute may be used to provide an expansion of the abbreviation. So I have an example here of the snippet of code. So you observe that I have a paragraph too, but inside the paragraph now I have an abbreviation tag, and I have the opening abbreviation tag, and I have the closing abbreviation tag. Now one thing you must observe about abbreviation tag is that it must have a title. So if I put this title represents the full meaning of this particular word, which is prof, which is referenced as a professor, right? So that's an example of abbreviation. And also we have acronyms. Now acronyms are used to spell out the full form of a term. So if you observed, and the name acronym, it's the same for each tag, and it also have an opening tag and a closing tag. And inside the acronym opening tag I have the title, which will define the full meaning of the term. So I have, for example, here NASA, and NASA is defined as National Aeronautics and Space Administration. So when my browser displays this, NASA does some crazy stuff, like as I've typed it here now. Once the mouse cursor is placed on NASA, it displays out this National Aeronautics and Space. So what I want to do is that pause this video and try this out. Okay, all right, so let's go to the next slide. So we also have citations and definitions. So, and for citations, the tag used to represent citations is this word cite, and said the cite element is used when you are referencing a piece of work such as a book, film, or research paper. It can be used to indicate where the citation is from. So I have the citation and I have the example, this paragraph, and inside the paragraph I have what I've cited outright. So it has the opening tag and also the closing tag. Now I say a brief history of rings. Now if you observe the results, a brief history of ring is in italics now, shows that it has been cited, and we use this for our research materials, books, films, quotes. So also we have another tag which is called definitions and is represented with DFN. So it is used to explain some new terminology in a document. It is known as the defining instance of it. So for example, if I want to define this particular black hole now, you observe that once I get to my result in my browser now, it highlight this as an italic, showing me that it's a particular term that has been defined here. So that's an example of definitions we want to do. Pause this video and try this out. All right, so also in text formatting, we have a particular tag which is called pre, and it is referred to as pre-formatted text. And what this tag does is that the pre element is used to display spaces, titles, line breaks exactly as it is written. So for instance, without putting this pre, if for instance I just place a paragraph which is P and the closing P, and I write out this same content here, my browser will display this and as a normal sentence with keeping just a space in between them. But with the use of the pre, I can then preserve the style that I typed out this particular content, and that's the use of a pre tag. All right, so let's go to the another text formatting. So we also have another text formatting which is used for author details, and the author details either phone number, email address, and it's represented with the tag address. So, and I also have an opening tag and a closing tag, and I wrote here that the address element is used to contain the contact details for the author of the page. It can be a phone number or the email address of the author. So we have an opening tag of the address here and the closing tag, and in between them I have a paragraph, opening paragraph and the closing paragraph. And in the opening paragraph I have what we call an angular tag, which we are still going to examine in subsequent videos, and I have href which shows me the link of when I click on this particular mail. So that's the link, and you observe that both this address, both this email address and this particular location, they are in italics, showing me because of the effect of adding an address tag in between them. So that's an example of author's details. So also we have text formatting tools that are used to change content. Probably maybe you're writing a particular content and you made a mistake. You can't backspace, you can just stroke it out to show that there's a mistake. So we have the ins, which is a short word for insert. So this ins element can be used to show content that has been inserted into a document. So we have a paragraph here, and also we have another tag which is called delete. So del shows that the first word is deleted. It has an opening tag and a closing tag, and the ins showing me that the new word or term that has been inserted, and that's why you see that in my results worst is cancelled and best is highlighted here. All right, so also we have the stroke element, which is represented as S, and this element this element is no longer accurate or relevant, but just for you to know about it. And what it does is that once maybe you're typing and you make a mistake, it can clear out or like give a stroke on that particular element. And if you observed in my HTML code snippet that I wrote here, that I wrote the phone cost $100, or maybe it's a mistake and I wrote $100. So now using an S opening tag and closing tag, it strokes out this $100 out and put 120. But now, why will not just put a backspace and just clear that out? But it's good for you to know about the stroke tag. Alright, so let's go to another slide now. So now we have been able to look at text formatting, and one of those important things I want to note also is HTML boilerplate. And the, as name implied, the boilerplate is more of like an HTML template for your HTML code. So these are compulsory things that you also need to know and be acquainted with. But for this video, I put a link down below so that you can able to understand more about the boilerplate. And the boilerplate is more of like a template that every of your HTML code must have. So if I'm building a website now, or I'm building a project, a new page in my website, I must have this particular boilerplate, and it has different parts. So I'll put a link down below for a reference for you to know more about the boilerplate and different details of the boilerplate. But as we go further in this video, we're going to be observing them and knowing the details, the functions, and what they do. Alright, so now let's now go to a practical project. So we're going to create a small blog, and we're going to implement all the things we have learned in this class. I'm going to use them to practice and create a blog page headings. Alright, and having their excerpt. So alright, so let's go to my Visual Studio Code. Alright, so now my Visual Studio Code now. So what I want to do now is that for my class project, I want to create a new file, and I'll call this file block.html. Alright, now so I've created this new file here now. So now I need my boilerplate now, but I'm not going to use this boilerplate here because it has so many other information that we don't yet need for this video. So I'm going to use a more simple boilerplate that I'm going to copy. Okay, alright, so I'm going to place my Visual Studio Code. Alright, so I'm trying to create a blog, so I title my blog. Let me give my blog a title. So let me name it Renfix Tech Blog. Alright, so now I've named it Renfix Tech Blog. Alright, so now I have the blog. So let me add content to my body, and I have a ready-made content that I want to add to my blog. So and okay, so I have the title. So let me add the title Renfix Tech Blog. Copy this. Okay, copy and go to my body where my content will be displayed. I have my heading 1, so I want to use an heading 1, and I want to make this align. I want to align this to the center. Okay, alright, so I have my heading 1 now. Alright, so then I have another content here which is more of like a sub heading. So I'll copy this and I'll place it here. Okay, alright, so let me, so that we can see the let me cut it here so that we can see the full page. Alright, so now I have the second heading, but I don't want to give this heading, so I'll give it heading 3 as a sub heading. Okay, alright, so let me save this. So okay, so the next I want to have an horizontal line. So let me add an horizontal line. Okay, alright, so I've added an horizontal line. Now I want to have my first blog heading, this excerpt, and the author and date and the comment. So let me first add heading. So for my first blog, I will use an heading 3, heading 2. So let me add an heading 2. Okay, copy this, I'll paste it here. Okay, alright, so also for my content, I will copy this and place it in a paragraph. Okay, alright, so I have that in a paragraph. Let me reduce it so that you can see what I'm doing. Alright, so I have this in a paragraph, right? Okay, now by Emma wrote. So that's the writer here. So what I'll do is that I want to use an address tag here now, which is for the author's details. So I'll put address. Okay, so let me put there by author wrote. Okay, and I want to retain this particular format of content. So what I will do, I'll use a preformatted text, and to use a preformatted text I will use a pre-tag. So let me add a pre-tag. Okay, and copy this content. All right, copy and then paste here. Okay, all right. So what I want to do, there's some text in my code that I want to highlight. I want this information to be bold. I put a B reference at the bold, cut this out, then paste this here. All right, so save this. Okay, okay, I want this 13% to be, let's assume this is a quote. Let me add a quote here. I want to be a quote in between here. Okay, so let's say 13% of cancellations. Okay, so cut this and place it in a quote. All right, so I have the first blog heading, the paragraph. So what I will do, I'll just copy this and make duplicate of it. So let me just make the duplicate of it now. Okay, all right, so now, okay, so let me give a space so that I'll be able to see what I'm doing. All right, so let me go to my second blog news, the heading. So this is the second one. Copy this and I'll place it here. Okay, good. Now the paragraph, which is the excerpt, so copy it and place it. Delete this. Okay, so I have the paragraph now. Okay, all right, so I have the paragraph now. So all right, let me change the address. Okay, and dates. Okay, and the comments. All right, so and the last log title, the best smartphone you can buy for $500. Okay, change the content of the last heading too. All right, and also the content here. Okay, okay, so I have the last two. Let me change the name. All right, okay, so by, okay, copy the author. Okay, and then the comments. All right, and control save. So let me now observe how this is displayed in my browser. Go to my documents, my class projects, and I have my blog here. So let me open with my browser. Okay, now so this is the example of my blog page now that I've created now. So you observed I have my first heading, the second heading, and I have the horizontal line, and I have the first blog. I use an heading too. I have the paragraph, I have the address, the preformatted text, and the other example. So this is an example of a simple blog that I've created with different snippets, right? All right, that's very good. So now what I want to do is I want to also, for your own personal project, create a blog page for your personal project. All right, so now today's class, we're going to come to an end of today's class. We have been able to look at HTML elements. We said HTML elements are used to describe the structure of the web page, the headings, subheading, paragraphs. We also have looked at semantic informations used for emphasis, stress, acronyms, citations in your HTML code. So we are going to come to the end of today's class. So I want to encourage you to subscribe to my channel and click on the notification bell to receive updates as I'm posting those videos. Subscribe. Love you. Have a wonderful day. Bye bye.